The Premier League is back, and with it, some brand new faces. That's the topic of today's conversation. Join me, join the conversation on this week's episode of the SlabStox FC Show. What's going on, everyone? I'm Andrew at St. Croix Cards, and it is great to be back with all of you on another edition of the SlabStox FC Show. I know it's been a while, and I apologize, but our last episode that was due to air a couple weeks ago fell right on the National Card Show week, and the SlabStox team, including myself, was in Rosemont, and it was just a fabulous time. So thank you for understanding. I had a lot of people reach out asking for episodes and when it was coming, and you know what? Here it is. The Premier League is back, and with it, the Community Shield that kicks everything off, right? And how great is it that Arsenal comes away with the Community Shield win? And I know people are going to sit there and talk and say it's just a preseason trophy. But if we would have lost, it would have been like, yep, see, Man City is still better than Arsenal. If anything, psychologically, I think it does a lot for Arsenal. Psychologically, it did a lot for me as I'm looking forward to another season. And you know what? There's always hope. And I have hope and even more hope now that we were able to squeak out that penalty win. But really, today is all about the new faces in the Premier League, a couple of names, a couple of guys who have come in from other leagues who could make a massive difference at the top end of the table. And the first person that we got to start talking about is Josko Gvardiol, the center back from the Bundesliga, from RB Leipzig. Here he comes to Manchester City, made the move for $98 million. Just some of these transfer fees is just mind-boggling to me. But I think Gvardiol does a massive job at improving the defense for Manchester City. And a lot of people who are not fans of City are looking at that back line going, yeah, that just made you a lot better. And the title defense is there. And City is going to make it a rough one on a lot of teams throughout the Premier League. We know they can score goals. We know that they can put the ball in the back of the net. Hojlund did that all last year. Here, adding to the defense, locking down that defense could make things very difficult for a lot of teams across the Premier League. During his Bundesliga year last year, 30 games, had a goal, but we know he's a center back. His job is not to score goals, even 2 goals in 6 Champions League appearances. His goal, his job, his prerogative is to stop the other team from scoring goals, and he does that very well. We saw that in the World Cup for Croatia, just a fabulous tournament for Gvardiol, and now he has his move to City. Card that I want to talk about is the 2021-2022 Topps Chrome Bundesliga. This is the purple auto PSA 10 out of 199. Now, there's no other comps that I want to look at. This is a pop one, but I thought this was really intriguing. This August 6th sale for $200 out of 199 is still a very high serial number. And so for me, it's an interesting, people seem to be excited about Gvardiol's move. That Topps Chrome Bundesliga also has the RC logo, the RC sticker on it. And it's a PSA 10 again. So you're going to pay a little bit more or premium for that card. But it got me to thinking and I don't know quite the prices on Topps Chrome Bundesliga from 21 to 22. But even if they're not extremely expensive, if you can pull a Gvardiol auto out of it, I think there might be some room in it. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, 21 and 22 would still have, Bellingham in it and Hojlund. I don't know what those boxes do, but it was interesting to me and kind of a light bulb went off saying, sometimes you see a little bit of a cheaper rip for Bundesliga, but you'd have to correct me. I'm not a big opener of packs, so you'd have to let me know that as well. But I thought 200 was a very, very solid price for a center back because we know that they don't command the most from other positions in the Premier League or just in soccer in general. We know that the hobby tends to move towards the goal scorers, and but that $200 I think is a pretty solid and a pretty healthy sale for Gvardiol. If that's too much for you, if you're like, I'm not going to pay $200 on a PSA 10 purple out of 199, I still think there's some really cool options out there. One of those is just the new release, the 2023 Topps Museum collection. There's some very interesting patches and autos for Gvardiol. I know it's not his rookie, but to find those kind of 2-color or even 3-color with some of the kits, patches, and then have the auto as well. I get some of people like myself, I do want and look for game worn if I can. I don't believe that Museum is game worn. I do believe they're player worn. Again, don't correct me if I'm wrong, but even, out of $299, you can get a really, really nice dual patch auto for around $42 to $43. These two sales, one sale, these are all raw. August 5th, $43.89, and then August 5th as well, you had one sell for $42.83. So just roughly around $43, you could get a really nice two-patch auto of Josko Gvardiol, and he's going to kind of slot into that center back position for Man City. And if they're winning, he's going to be kind of front and center on doing his part to make sure that they are keeping the goals out of the net, out of their own net. So one to watch. I think it's a big move, massive move money-wise, but I think it's great, and it's a good fit for City as a whole. Second one that I think has kind of flown a little under the radar. It happened very early in the transfer window, but coming out of Serie A is Sandro Tonali, 23-year-old midfielder going to Newcastle. Big transfer fee for Newcastle as well, $76 million. And he had a really, really great season for Milan. Serie A, 34 games, 2 goals, 7 assists. Champions League, he had 12 games in the Champions League and had 3 assists. More of a defensive midfielder, but I like what what Newcastle has done in the structure of their team. Last year, they were one of the best defensive teams in the Premier League. And then you had Guimaraes, the Brazilian kind of defensive mid. And now you throw Tonali in there as well. And the midfield looks very strong for Newcastle. This is a Newcastle team that also has Champions League to look forward to this year. And they made a lot of progress last year under Eddie Howe. And I think they're going to push forward. And you still look at, some of their signings in the front. I mean, Isak last year was hurt for the first half, looked really good on the second half. But the sneaky one up front too, I think, is Harvey Barnes. So you're going to have some offensive firepower, and now you have some really grit and steel in the midfield. I don't think Newcastle's going anywhere. I think they're going to be up and around that top 5 or top 4 all year long. I just think, they've built themselves a very good team, and really even being financially conservative, if you will, in a market where Arsenal's paying $132 million for Declan Rice. To bring Sandro Tonali in for $76 million, we'll have to see how he kind of transitions his game from Serie A to the Premier League. But I really like that move for Newcastle. I think it's a great signing and could do well for them moving forward. Now, one of those cards that I think is just an interesting card. It's not a rookie card, but again, autos of Sandro Tonali, 2021, 2022 Topps Merlin. Chrome. This is his U23 auto. They're numbered to 25, and we just had 2 sales recently, raw sales, just sell here over the past couple weeks. June 28th, that card sold for $100, and now we've seen that card sold August 4th. Now, these are raw copies, not graded, for $56. There was some kind of buildup in pricing, and as transfers go, you tend to see kind of cards spike as they transferred, and then they kind of come back down to earth. But out of 25 for $56 for a midfielder who's still 23 years old, who has a lot of potential and could fit really well into the Newcastle system. I think that is something to kind of look at. And not just the Merlin Chrome, like there are other cards out there that you can kind of take a look at as well. You got to go all the way back to 2019, 2020 for his rookie card. He's in Panini Chronicles. The XR, this is the rookie red. I picked 2 PSA 9s that we could take a look at. June 26, a PSA 9 XR rookie red. These are out of 99. Sold for $123.63. If you fast forward into the middle of July, a couple weeks before the National, another XR red out of 99 sold July 12th. This is a PSA 9 as well. Sold for $181.50. So some of that rookie stuff, some of that numbered stuff, I think people are starting to look out for as somebody who could fit into that Newcastle team and perform very well. But only time will tell how that transition looks and how he'll do moving forward. But we're going to step out of the midfield. We're going to get out of we had 1 center back, we had 1 midfielder, and now we're going to move into 2 forwards that I think we really need to discuss. And the first one is Nicolas Jackson, 22-year-old forward from Villarreal, from La Liga. And I just really, watching a little bit of him last year, thought he had a really, really positive jump forward for him. He's made the move to Chelsea. Now, young forward moving to Chelsea. I mean, you could say young player moving anywhere, and people will predict that they're moving to Chelsea. But he moved to Chelsea for $38 million. Now, I thought this was a steal. The moment I saw this go down, I texted Aaron and was like, hey, I think you got a steal in Nicolas Jackson. This kid can play. this kid can play the forward position, and he has been pretty promising in preseason. I thought, he played really, really well in preseason. The link-up play with some of the other young players. He set up Modric here in the U.S. for a really great goal. And this is coming off a year where in La Liga he played 26 games and had 12 goals and 4 assists. So played extremely well there, very productive. And now Chelsea's looking at this kind of conundrum of what do we do at center forward? What do we do at the forward position? And I think Nicolas Jackson is the guy. I don't see Lukaku coming back. There's been, Juventus doesn't want him. Inter Milan doesn't want him. Chelsea doesn't want him. And so I don't think you're going to see him wind up playing forward for Chelsea anytime soon. And Nkunku has just been, MCL stuff, and he's out for, I think, 12 weeks at least. And I know he wouldn't play the center forward role anyway, but there is going to be a need and a hole that needs to be filled. And I think Nicolas Jackson will do an extremely good job at that. Now, the interesting thing about our next two, including Nicolas Jackson, is there's not a whole lot of cards out there for Nicolas Jackson. One of the places that you can look is 2022-2023 Select La Liga. Now, I think he's in Chronicles as well, and there might be a couple others now that they're starting to roll out. But the Select La Liga is where we kind of see kind of those first cards, that RC logo. And the card that I picked is raw again, because to get him to PSA or to SGC or to Beckett and back in time just isn't realistic, is not going to happen. At this point, maybe some will start to trickle in right now. But his tie-dye prism, this is a tie-dye prism in Select in 2022, is numbered out of 35, sold July 24th. For $103.50. Now, this is just pre-national, and so pretty high price. And then August 1st, another Prism tie-dye. And I know if you're watching at home on the screen, they have mislabeled this one. It's not out of 49. It's out of 35. You can go back to the original listing and look at it. The back picture does state that it's out of 35, and the tie-dyes are out of 35. And that might have had some effect on the price, being out of 35 and out of being 49. But August 1st, it sold for $76 with raw. So for a player who's really only had that really one kind of slight breakout year, it wasn't as if he scored 20 or 30 goals. He wasn't putting in the goals like Valère Balogun was doing in League One with in France, but he had a productive year with Villarreal. People are turning their attention. He's at a big stage with a big club at Chelsea. He's going to be asked to produce, and from all that we've seen in preseason, he's more than capable of doing it. So some interesting, if you kind of keep track of him, there is always that opportunity, as players, any of these players make moves, it's sometimes very difficult to establish yourself in a new league. It's going to take time. And I think as a hobby, we want to, we kind of act as, what have you done for me lately? Nicolas Jackson comes in. If he has a couple games where he struggles, I think the market will turn a little bit, and there might be an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm a Chelsea fan, or I just like Nicolas Jackson, or maybe you're even in if I buy here at X, at X point, I can resell it at a higher point. Whatever your play is here, I think, some of these guys are just kind of, keep these names in your head and say, okay, how are they performing? And if you believe in the player, I've said this many, many times, if you believe in the player, it shouldn't matter if they have a little bit of a rough stretch. You believe in them enough to see it through the stretch, because everybody has goalless droughts. I mean, we've seen it from Hojlund, we've seen it from Mbappe, we've seen it from Ronaldo, and we've seen it from Messi. So if you can kind of get through those kind of, and I'm not comparing any of these young players to those four, but I'm just saying as a hobby, we need to kind of sit back and look and say, okay, am I willing to ride the storm if I believe in the player? And so if you believe in Nicolas Jackson, there might be a time where he's not scoring all that many goals, and you can kind of maybe get one or two of a really nice tie-dye prism out of Select La Liga for an affordable price if there is a price point that you gotta have it at. So Nicolas Jackson, tie-dye prism. And then the other one too is if you're not even dealing with a tie-dye prism, even some of the non-number stuff from Select La Liga is doing well. These are, again, ungraded, but we're looking at the 2022-2023 Select La Liga. This is the Mojo prism. So it has like a purple and then has the kind of the weird dynamic going on in the back, the Mojo kind of look. July 31st, one sold for $20 raw, and then August 5th, one sold for $15 raw. So a little bit of a decrease in the price point, which is interesting because the tie-dye decreased in value a little bit from July to August, and so did the Mojo Prisms. But Nicolas Jackson, definitely one to watch. I'd keep my eye on him and Chelsea as they look to kind of mesh and mold that very, very young team. And, I think they made the right choice with the Reece James captaincy choice. I know he's had his injuries in the past, but if you want a leader, I think Reece James is a good one to have. And we'll see kind of how he can lead that team on the field, if he can stay on the field, but how he can lead that team forward. And I think, as quickly as they can mesh, there's a lot of talent on that team, and there's a lot of talent now in the academy for what Chelsea has been doing. So I think they're one to watch out for. I know they kind of get the finger poked at them and laughed at because of, all the transfers that have happened. But I think, the talent that they are kind of pulling together. And for Nicolas Jackson, if he works out, $38 million is and could be a very, very, very good price for Chelsea. Now, last but not least, I want to take a look at Rasmus Hojlund. Again, you want to talk Nicolas Jackson for $38 million. He moves from Serie A to Manchester United for $82 million. So 32 games last year in Serie A. He had 9 goals and 4 assists, and he looked extremely good in some of the international games that he played for Denmark. Had a good hat trick in a game here quite a few months ago now, but kind of put the world on notice of who Rasmus Hojlund is. So here he comes to Manchester United, and they are in need of a forward. I mean, Rashford does not want to play in the center. I think his best position is out on the left. That's just me, but I think they want, and we're not going to put Martial, and we're not going to put Weghorst was there. He is now gone. So there is a gaping hole there in the center forward position. And I think Hojlund could fit that very well. Still just 20 years old, but really for $82 million on 9 goals and 4 assists, there is high expectations at Manchester United with him. And it's only time is going to tell. And with the high expectations, we also see some very, very high prices. He's now at a top club in Manchester United. People are excited about this kid. And here you see some of those prices are just pretty high for what he's been able to accomplish in the past year or so. 2022, 2023, this is Panini Chronicles. This is the Optic rated rookie blue. So this is out of 49. It is a raw copy. They haven't been graded yet, but August 3rd, one sold raw for $455.99. And then fast forward 2 days and one sold for $475. So pretty incredible with the prices that Hojlund is grabbing in the hobby. But again, you look at Gvardiol versus, center back versus goal scorer. And here's somebody who has the potential to be very good and productive on a Manchester United team. And you can see the price point is extremely high. So that's the blue Optic. And then if you're interested in, maybe something out of Select Serie A, he's also in the Select Serie A that came out here just a couple months ago. This is his purple prism out of 49. Again, you're going to see some pretty high prices. This August 6th, a raw copy of this purple prism out of 49 sold for $242.50. And then on August 5th, you saw one sell for $276.85. So we're kind of, in the mid 250-ish range for Hojlund for his Select Serie out of 49. And so maybe it's one that, as other copies come out, and I know that there's some supply and demand, there's not a ton of his rookies out there. So be mindful and watchful. But this is just 4 new faces to the Premier League. So all 4 of these guys were outside the Premier League, coming back now into the Premier League. They may need some time to adapt. Not everybody can hit the ground running like Hojlund did last year. And there were, even if you remember preseason last year, people were saying he was going to struggle in the Premier League. He obviously did not. And so there's hope that some of these 4 guys are going to hit the ground running and play extremely well. But I think for every Hojlund, you might find somebody that, like Scamacca for West Ham, who just made the move back to Serie A, where there was a high potential of him coming in and just didn't fit didn't work out at West Ham, and off he went back to Serie A. So be careful with kind of, again, do your research, collect, and watch these guys play, kind of take a look at them. Don't take my word for it, but I'd love to know, kind of the new players coming in from other leagues. Who are you most excited about? And finally, we could not start a new Premier League season without a few predictions. So here are my predictions. It pains me to say it. It does. It pains me to say this. But, with Gvardiol and with some of the movement, and I don't think Manchester City is done yet in the transfer window. They are just so incredibly good. I think it will be a two-horse race. I really, really do. But I think it's going to come down to just the experience. Again, Arsenal had made huge strides going forward last year. I hope with all my heart that I'm wrong. But I think Manchester City will just be able to squeak out and edge out because of the defense this year, because their ability to stop goals and score. Again, I think their goals are going to come in, and that's not going to be a problem. But I think with Gvardiol, their defense could take another step forward. Leaving Arsenal at second, still think they made some great adds. But Liverpool, I think, is going to make the biggest pull forward. Liverpool, I think with McAllister, they still got a little bit of work to do in a transfer window with a midfield. Maybe they get Lavia from Southampton. I don't know. That could be a Chelsea move as well. There's a new kind of rumor going out there. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But I think with Darwin Nunez, Cody Gakpo, Mo Salah, I think with another year together, they do really, really well and could do some great things up there up front. And they still got some great some back with Virgil van Dijk. They've got plenty of experience back there as well. And I do think with Rasmus Hojlund, I do think he has a pretty good year. But not just that. I think with the Mason Mount move, Bruno Fernandes, you still got plenty of firepower with Rashford. Manchester United, I think, is poised to have another good year. And I didn't even mention Newcastle here. I think they'll be fighting for a spot as well. And it's just going to be a great year. I hope that you guys are ready. I am so excited, so ready to go. Give me your predictions. Who do you think is going to win the league? That's what I want to know. Who do you think is your number one? Is it City? Is it Arsenal? Is it someone else? If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who reached out and asked about the episode that kind of got missed because of the National. So thank you for that. Again, thank you for all of your questions, all of your comments in the videos. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below or simply just DM me. I'm Andrew at St. Croix Cards. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the SlabStox FC Show, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks a lot.